Trinity Fremont, we know that faith starts in the home. We also know that it can be difficult to take what we hear on Sunday and live it out in our homes the rest of the week. That's because information alone doesn't lead to growth and change. But information that's reflected on and put into practice is much more likely to lead to growth and change. Join us as we reflect on this past Sunday's sermon and give practical starting points to help you live it out, your faith, in your family, and in your community.
Hello!
What's up?
I have
Hello.
a sound effect just for us.
Oh boy.
Did you make
Everybody,
a woo one? Oh.
Thank you very much. We're here. I know you're excited. I know that everybody is super excited, and keep on going, keep on coming.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
You're the real MVP.
All right.
I know, and my jokes just land. You have no idea how.
Okay, Paul. Paul's having a great morning.
Sound
Hi,
effect.
Paul.
Laughing with
Well,
you,
you-
not at you.
You know the problem is that it's raining out,
It is.
and we were all sitting around staring at each other like this.
Yep.
Hey,
I'm ready
guys.
to go like this. What?
But we thought
Jesus.
Hey there.
Hey there.
Right on you.
that is always the answer. Right?
Absolutely. Jesus is the answer.
So what's everyone doing in the rain today besides getting wet? Gerber wore his gaiters to the studio.
So I kind of actually really like it when it's just kind of raining just a little bit during drop off, because I get to get my raincoat and my rain boots and my umbrella, and I get to walk kids in.
You take that job very seriously.
I do. I love that job. That's one of my favorite jobs to do, is hang out with kids under the umbrella for about 5 seconds before
Even
they
if
get
they
to
carry an umbrella.
Oh yeah, we double umbrella. We don't want their umbrellas to get wet.
We pulled up, they're like, Dad's holding the umbrella over that girl's umbrella. Yes, just go with it.
Yeah, just go with it. So, hello to those of you joining us on the school Facebook page. This is our church podcast. We have been talking a little bit more in some leadership meetings about how do we better connect the ministries of church and school. And we thought, this is something that we're doing. It goes to this church page live. What is this, our fourth time going live on video? I don't know, whatever.
Wasn't one.
But so we're streaming it to the school Facebook page this time as well. And so welcome to those of you. This podcast is really an opportunity for us to reflect on what we heard this past Sunday. Now, if you weren't in church this past Sunday, if you weren't at Trinity, that's okay, because we'll kind of give you some discussion about what we heard, reflect on it, and then talk about, well, how are we going to live differently because of that? And it actually fits really well with the sermon this past week, because we had a missionary in Fung Lo from Southeast Asia. He works among the Hmong people of Southeast Asia, and he really talked to us about the Great Commission. And Casey, I'll let you talk a little bit about this, because you were talking about how we've heard the Great Commission said so many times, but the way he had his Lo version, the Fung Lo version of the Great Commission, and it really just spelled it out in such a simple way.
Well, and I was talking with Pastor last night, and also with our youth group on Sunday. Growing up, I've been a Christian my whole life, been in the church my whole life. I've gone to theology classes in college. I've got a degree in this. But it was amazing. It's when you're in a profession, you have your own jargon in that profession. So stuff rolls off your tongue that makes sense to no one else. Yeah. So there's a lot of things when you say the Great Commission, a lot of Christians will know what you're referencing, but very few people know what that actually means. And Fung Lo actually gave a study showing most Christians know that word, but they don't actually know what that entails.
Right.
And for those of you who by name don't know what the Great Commission is, it's Matthew 28, where Jesus is about to ascend into heaven, and he says, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, teaching them all that I have.
Teaching them
observe.
to obey
Yeah.
all that I have commanded.
Yep. And
surely I'm with you always
Yes.
to the very end of the age.
that too.
There you go.
And,
I like that part.
All
and
authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me is what precedes it.
Oh, sorry.
I just like
Good teamwork.
Yeah, go team.
Go team.
See, we all listened.
Yes.
But it's one of those things. We say the Great Commission almost like it's church jargon.
Yep.
Like it just rolls off our tongue. And then that verse is said so often. I think that it's either for those of us who've said it a lot, it's lost its meaning. And for those of us, I'd seen a comic strip it wasn't about the Great Commission, but it was someone had just said, I've been here 2 years. I don't know what this word means, and at this point, I'm afraid to ask.
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
that's the other side of it. And like I said, I've known that basically my whole life. But Fung Lo, I always thought it as a missionary thing. Like we need to let the whole planet know about Jesus.
Right.
And when I pictured that always meant going somewhere else. Like
Well, it says go therefore.
Yeah.
and I've even told my own high schoolers for years, that it doesn't necessarily mean going overseas or going to a different country. But what Fung Lo did is he talked about how it can just be your neighbor. It can be the person at the gas station you run into who fills up your coffee. Yeah.
Yep.
And the way he defined that just turned it on its end for me.
Yep.
So the question I have for you, Fung Lo talked about going to Walgreens. Can you just imagine having that conversation? Hey,
Hey,
Oh,
hey there.
hey there. How's it going?
how's it going?
You guys ever had one of those experiences?
No.
And if you had, you can text us.
I don't
not
think
text
so.
us. You can comment on below and let us know.
So he said he went to Walgreens Saturday night in Fremont
Yeah.
Yeah.
and was talking to the cashier.
Yep.
Said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Got any plans? The guy said, I have
the day off.
the day off tomorrow. Oh, what's the best thing to do on Sunday? Did he say
No, he
Sunday?
says, what's the best way to rest and relax?
What's on your
and-
day off? What's
Yeah.
the best way to spend it? And the guy's like, well, I don't really know.
Yeah.
He said, tomorrow's Sunday. The best thing to do on Sunday? Go to worship.
Yeah. Yeah. Be with Jesus. Spend time with God.
This is with the Walgreens cashier as
Yep.
he's paying for
Just
his
buying water.
and,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it just struck me like
That was super
how
simple.
natural that was for him,
Yep.
and how terrifying that is for me.
Yeah.
I would
But
agree.
why is that terrifying?
Because it's not. I'm thinking of it in terms. There was something when I worked in retail, and when people entered into our store, we had to greet them, and then we had to tell them our specials, and then ask them if they wanted to have a basket. It was very uncomfortable because you're standing here, you don't even know this person. It's like, hi, Stacy, welcome. We've got these sales today. Would you like a basket?
How'd you know her name?
Would you like a
Oh,
basket?
I
had a
guess I
name
would.
tag on.
Yeah, there she goes. She worked down at the movie theater, and she came down on her
There you go.
break.
Okay.
There we go.
And one
And it was very unnatural, because
Yeah.
it's not. It was like really
Forced.
forced.
Yeah.
And after so long, it just became second nature. I don't think I have started a conversation like that with anybody I've never not known.
Yeah.
So it would be like if I walked into, Rise and Shine Donuts and got my donut and said, hey, why don't you turn in, to the podcast on Tuesday? That would feel very unnatural to me until I've done it.
You could be like, hey, speaking of rise and shine,
There you
this
go.
hymn that we
Rise
sang,
and shine.
Rise, shine, you people, Christ the Lord. That was our opening hymn for our service this weekend for
Not
our
our
6 and
service.
8 o'clock. So you could be like, hey, guess
But-
what?
I just,
But the thing for some people is, like you said, it just, for you, it became natural because you forced yourself to do it.
yes.
And that's for Fung, as he was telling these stories, it just, because he's done it so often,
It's become
it's
natural.
just
Yep.
become part of who he is, part of the conversations that he has. It's just
and
natural.
as he was sharing that story, I was thinking, that seems very natural. Like that didn't seem like I started this conversation to get him to come to church on Sunday. Like,
Right.
It was just like he asked about his life. What are your
Yep.
interests? What's your way to rest? Here's what I think the best way to spend a Sunday is to go to worship.
Yep.
And it was like kind of planting that seed, not forcing it upon
Right.
him, but just talking about it in a way that was appealing.
Yeah. But then he even, when I think he talked about Saturday night, and I think at 10:30, but he talked about he was at Office Max that Friday before making copies, and a guy came up to him, asked him what he was making all the copies for, and but Fung asked him, "What do you do?" And he said, "Oh, I'm an insurance agent."
That's right.
And Fung goes, "Oh, I am too. I'm an insurance agent too." And, "Oh, really? What do you sell?" And he said, "Oh, eternal life insurance policies." And so I just liked at the end of that, because it's kind of cheesy at times, but at the end of that he said, "To the insurance agent, I became an insurance agent," and that was so like it was the words of Paul, right? The to these people I become like them, not to be so that I blend in with them, but to find a common ground where we can have a conversation.
Speak in terms they understand.
Yeah. Let me tell you about this unknown God that you talk of. Well, I know that God. I can tell you who that God is. For an insurance agent, I become an insurance agent for the fire, for the firemen that puts out fire, we can become the firemen. And that was just, but because he does it so often, it's natural. But Paul, I was thinking about that, I've been, for the last month, I've had a injured back, and not like awful where I can't move, but every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I work out. It's really hard to work out with a bad back. And so I've still been going for the most part and just doing really light workout, and it's awful. Like last Friday, I was so excited and frustrated because there was this workout that from the CrossFit Open that I really thought I wanted to do. And I felt somewhat good when I woke up in the morning, but I'm like, I shouldn't do it.
During the warm up, you were like,
yeah. And during the warm up, I was like, it's starting to tighten up. And so I sat and I was a cheerleader and I was like, this is worthless. I hate that I'm here. I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. But then after that workout, we sat and talked about demons with a guy for 20 minutes.
well, yeah, he brought it up.
He brought it up, and he had all these questions that he wanted to, what do you think about this? And I really, like, part of me didn't want to be there that morning. Part of me was like, nah, I'm just going to stand around. So I'm not, and I was like, nah, I need to go. And it just was, God had that timing and for me to be able to have that conversation. And so it's also that openness, because normally it also worked out well that we didn't have school. We were on spring break. Sam, who's been going to preschool or pre-K, she still had school, but we were going to go to the zoo. So I didn't need to get home and get her up. So it was just all these things worked together, but it could have been just as easy for me to just leave right away. Like, oh, I got to get going. But I was able to kind of step back and say, no, this is an important conversation to have here.
When you talked about how for Fung Lo it was incredibly natural for this to happen, and we look so often at things as they are right now. Someone's really good, at whatever they do. I can never be that. Well, at one point, Fung Lo was sharing that story for the first time in his life ever, and I will bet you about anything that it didn't sound like that.
Yeah.
Like you think about any time you did something for the first time that you're good at. You were not what you were, whether it's your job, your favorite hobby, Mario Kart, you name it. Trust me.
I've always been good at Mario Kart.
It took some training, but I've got there. But whatever it is, you were not good on your first try. I'm willing to call out Pastor. I don't think it was 100% good on Mario Kart.
You're right.
It's the remote's fault.
Yeah.
But if we're comparing where we start to where someone who's done it for years is, that's always self-defeating no matter what you do. Like going to work out, you look at,
Yeah.
like you look at the trainer. Well, of course he's good. Not only has he done this, but he's been trained to teach it. He's going to be excellent.
Yeah.
in the Great Commission, I think sometimes we give ourselves the cop out that if I'm not excellent at this, someone else can do it. You know.
Oh yeah.
Whereas God didn't say you have to be excellent at this, then go therefore.
No.
It's just start going, and that doesn't. If you're not comfortable with having that conversation at Walgreens yet, I think as long as you don't use it as a cop out to never work up to there, just acknowledge I'm not there yet, but I need to share the gospel somewhere.
Yeah, and part of it is okay. I'm awkward having the conversation just with someone in general. Just that, like I went to the car wash. I took my mom was in town for the week while Stacy was out skiing. And I took my mom's car after worship Saturday to the car wash and went through the car wash, and I was like, all right, I'll have a conversation. And no, I didn't bring up, oh, as I go through this, I'll be thinking about my baptism as I go through the car wash. You should do. But as I was talking with this woman who was helping me at the car wash, at the end, I really thought she was going to say, have a great night as I was leaving. And she said, have a great car wash. And I said, you too. And I went, crap. But like, even just like, that's not comfortable for me to have conversations with people. Now it was for her. She helped with that process. She helped with that conversation. It helped. I was wearing a Trinity shirt. She's a teacher in Bellevue, so we were talking about spring break and things like that. But it was just an interesting, it was nice for me to just have a conversation. Yes, I ended it awkwardly and rolled my window up and went, "Wait, no."
Sure, she gets her car washed too.
Yeah, she does. But that was one of those things where, for me, that took that step of not just saying, all right, here's my card, give me my card back, I want to go. But being open to spend another 15 seconds having a conversation. And then, as that starts to get more comfortable, then, maybe I'll talk about my baptism as I get ready to go into the car wash and being washed clean and made new.
I find my biggest hang up is those kind of conversations I'm not sure if I can have in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably half the reason, because I don't mind actually talking to individuals if we're sitting down and talking. But it's like at Walgreens, which I never go to. I don't go to Walgreens.
He's a CVS
They have
fan.
really good candy sales. Like, that's why I like Walgreens at times.
I just find everything expensive there. It's just,
I go to Walgreens only like 2 weeks after I order my photos and go, oh, I forgot to pick those up.
I send my husband to pick them
And they're
up.
always like, what kind of photos were they? I don't know.
yeah. So I mean, I think general. I mean, I'm an extroverted person. I will talk to people randomly about anything. I feel like this is a little bit more deeper than I want to have in 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that was
I think that's the problem I'm having with it. And
yeah.
So,
Well, and that was like to watch, with Fung with it, as he was explaining some of his conversations, he was talking about, this time I just had that quick conversation, and then I gave him my card and said, hey, give me a call, let's talk. Or, with the guy at Walgreens, he said, hey, it wasn't a let's have a theological discussion. It was, hey, my favorite thing to do on Sundays is go to worship. You should go to worship too. Or, why don't you think of that? You sinner. No, but like, it wasn't this, I don't think it was this like accusatory. It was like, this is what I like to do on Sundays. Have you thought of that? And not a, let me tell you about my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It was, hey, this is who I am. This is what I like to do. I think this would be good for you. It's a great way to spend your day.
yeah.
But you're right. It is. Want to, and I know you, and like when you have a conversation, you can't just leave it. You don't want to just leave it there.
Yeah. Just this. Well, and there's sometimes that I'll talk as a musician. They'll ask me what my favorite band is, and I'm like, well, right now I'm really, really enjoying For King and Country. And they're like, well, I've never heard them before. It was like,
Yep.
well,
Let me.
I mean, it kind of opens the door a little bit to, I talk in musical terms in there, but I do bring in the Christian part of it. But, with this individual we're talking on Friday, this is somebody we've talked to numerous times and had conversations with, and I know that he is searching, and this is a good for both of us to, at different times, in different ways, talk to him. But I don't know. I feel like you have a really good door because they say, "What do you do for a living?" Oh, I know.
Yes and no. Yes and no, because honestly, like a lot of people hear, "Oh, pastor, shut down," and really, like,
I can see
He
that
can
too.
send me to hell.
not only that, but so like a lot
Is
of
he
times,
opening the bus door and shoving you in?
a lot of times, oh god. A lot of times when I have conversations, like when people find out for the first time that I'm a pastor, so where it's most awkward is, so I love playing softball. I've played slow pitch softball with the same core group of people from my hometown in Hastings for 15 years, almost, yeah. And so every year they'll text me to try and figure out, hey, are there any tournaments? Because guess what? Tournaments are on the weekends. It doesn't always often fit in my job. What? Yeah, I know. And so, but there will be times like, yeah, I can play those 2 days or something, or I can be there. And so I'll be there just for a weekend tournament. And there will be like half the guys will be guys that I know that I've played softball with for a long time. And the other half will be guys that I don't know. And so we'll be playing a couple games, and then it'll come out that I'm a pastor, and it's always like, it's always like, how come you didn't tell me that he was a pastor? I've been swearing this whole time. And that's like when people
Don't you
find
know
out
those words melt pastors?
when people find out that I'm a pastor, the first thing they do is apologize for swearing. Like, it is not just a few, like every single time, the first thing that they do is apologize for swearing. And so it just makes it like, oh, now it's awkward. Cause I've been around you and I said words.
But you didn't make it awkward.
No, I
They
don't
felt the
like
shame.
They did. They felt, let's
Guilt.
go back to last
Guilt.
week.
Guilt.
No, they felt shame.
Take away the shame.
Oh, that lesson.
I'm still so confused about all of that. So
I'm glad we cleared it up last week.
yeah, I know.
Yeah. But that's like, so I'd actually like often and it goes both ways, but often it actually closes, it closes doors when they find out I'm a pastor.
Do you ever have to explain? I can't see Casey from where I'm sitting. But do you ever have to explain what you do?
Yes.
I'm a DCE.
Constantly.
DCE.
So like a CFO. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a multimillionaire.
Yes. Can't you tell?
But it's really difficult because in trying to explain it, you can't explain it in under 2 sentences to accurately get what you do. Because if you're talking to someone in the Lutheran Church, they get it. I can tell you, there were still people connected at the last church I served that they would walk by my office and go, "Morning, Pastor," and part of me wanted to go.
Sure.
And I'm the kind of person who I just like getting things right. So my first instinct is I want to lean out and go, "Not one of those."
Not a pastor.
I'm not one of those.
You can swear in front of me. It's cool.
I won't send you to hell. I promise.
But and then you try and explain like, "Oh, what does that mean? Are you a youth pastor?" Well, kinda. I do. And but even so, you can't answer that without bringing up faith. And of course, I've never been.
Especially since the second word is Christian.
Yes, they pick that up really quick. That I do in fact believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
But
What?
yeah,
Who's that guy?
turns out you need to kind of believe in it to do my job. But
No.
yeah,
Yep.
but I can't, since I've never been a pastor, I can't 100% compare. But once you start getting into, oh yeah, I most of my job involves talking to youth and families about their faith and helping. It's like you can see the glass go over the eyes and like I'm not sure I can. You can read in the expression if I don't know them very well or it's very surface level. You can read the I'm not.
I
sure
wish I wouldn't have asked.
Well, not so much that it's. You can see. I'm not sure I want to get deeper than this.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, and I feel like for us, when we talk to people about Jesus, there's this feeling of, oh, they have to. That's part of their job. They have to tell us about Jesus. But when like a normal, for a real person, like talks to somebody about Jesus, it's like, oh, they care. Like it's important to them. They're
sure
not
for
even
real.
getting paid to talk to me about Jesus.
I just like that we were called normal.
Well,
Normal.
I'm not sure if that's
No,
true.
but-
non-pastoral.
To kind of go
Everyone's
off,
normal in different contexts.
to kind of go off of you two a little bit on the reverse perspective. Say I didn't know Casey, like, but I'm active in
You
the
didn't
church.
know Casey.
And
At one point.
I didn't know Casey. And I'm like, so Casey, what do you do? And you're like, well, I'm the director of children's education. And you kind of go, oh. And then you start thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't been taking my kid to Sunday school. My child hasn't been active in youth group. I'm like, no wonder he doesn't, I don't know who he is because I'm not doing these things.
He knows you.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's,
He's gonna
I've
send
called your number.
And
You
then I
didn't
just
pick
think
up.
He's gonna call me.
then you kind of start, oh yeah.
So wait a minute, you're actually blaming yourself.
No. Now, how do I do this all the time? I throw myself into a pickle. No, but it kind of makes you go, oh, shoot, I should have been doing a little bit more, or I could have taken my faith a little bit more seriously, or made it not so much seriously. That was the wrong thing to say. Make it more of a priority and just not that on again, off again. You know, I'm going to be here when it fits into my schedule or when I can put my Jesus necklace on.
Ooh.
And
Man, you're pulling that back
Yeah.
from
see,
like
but
months ago.
I think that's kind of what it boils down to is I was having a conversation with another family about confirmation. And
confirmation.
I know you do. And it was one of those things where the family that was involved in the conversation wasn't really sure, like, oh my goodness, how is this going to work? Really, I'm going to be the one that's talking to my kid about Jesus and God and how water is the life of God and how he gave us the water to live and all of this. And we're like, kind of, but not really. It's also, starting your kids off learning that this is a way of life. And some of the things that you are afraid of talking about, you're already doing. You're already worshiping. You're already praying. Maybe you're already doing a daily devotional. So it became then less scary.
Yeah. And to bring that full circle to the Great Commission, this is something that I don't know how I've missed. But like Casey, like you said, we as church workers, the Great Commission, we just roll it off the tongues. And if you want to, off the tongue, I only have one tongue.
But we speak in tongues.
But we
huh?
speak it, sure.
Hello.
No.
The LCMS.
Not in the, yeah. But
Please stop.
But it just rolls out the Great Commission: make disciples by baptizing and teaching. That's the very, very watered down version. Great Commission: make disciples by baptizing and teaching. When I say that though, when I hear that, and I don't remember if we talked about this on here. I know I've talked to some of you about this. When I hear that, I think baptize and then teach the information. Mm-hmm. But if we actually say all of the words, it's all authority in heaven and on earth have been given to me, Jesus. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations by baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. The teaching is not information. The teaching is living life. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we're doing confirmation the way we're doing. That's what Fung was talking about with the Great Commission as you go on living your life. But it's hear the word. These are his words. So it sounds eerily similar to what you may have heard as the podcast opened up. But hear the word, understand the word, and then live it out. We talk often about new information. I think I'm going to switch to just hear the word. But hear God's word, reflect on it, and put it into practice. And that's what the Great Commission is. But it's making sure that as we do that, it's not just focused on us, it's focused on others. And part of that word is go and make disciples by teaching them. And that also includes your children. Mm-hmm. That includes your grandchildren. So it's, again, like Casey, like you were saying, with youth, sometimes it's so like, to be a disciple, we've got to go to a different country, or a different state, like, and make it this big event where we go and we think we make an impact for a week, and then we come back to where we can get back to real life, as opposed to, Fung's definition. And Stacey, you had pulled it up to, I know you took a picture of it.
Screenshot while I was in the car. I listened in the car.
Because it was, therefore, as you go on living your life, share your faith with everyone. I mean, and baptizing them in the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit, and then teaching them to do all that I have taught you. But I just love, as you go on living your life, share your faith. Just such a simple way of putting it.
Well, and each person, that can look so different. And part of, I don't know what it's been like in previous generations, but it seems like in this current generation, we love YouTube tutorials because they can tell us exactly how to do something. My sink's broken. Here's the 3 ways you can diagnose it. And it would be so nice to say, Great Commission, here's how you do it specifically.
ABC. Yep.
Yeah, 3 easy steps, you're good to go. But I think the reason it's so open-ended is because it looks so different for each person. And going on top of what you said about missionary work, and this is something that a good friend of mine and I had conversations about for years. When a missionary would come to their church, they would get all excited about, going to a different country, learning a different language, getting immersed in the culture. And when that would happen for me, I love hearing how God is working. Like the amazing stories that Fung Lo had to share would, they will take your breath away. But I never once felt like excited to do that myself. And for the longest time I thought, is there something wrong with me that I don't feel excited or feel called to do overseas missionary work? Like, to me, that sounded scary and like an obligation that I didn't want to fulfill. And it wasn't until I started getting in training on being a director of Christian education that you realize there's a ton of people that don't want to do youth ministry. Yeah. But it gets me so excited to do. Like this, like it's like breathing to me. It just comes natural. And then it hit me in my first year of being a DCE. Each person has a different passion. God didn't give me the passion to go overseas, because if I went overseas, then there's no one to minister to these youth here. So if you don't feel that call to do something, maybe God is calling your passion to share your faith in a different way. I don't think, I mean, there's definitely some uncomfortableness the first time you share your faith in any situation, but it doesn't have to be, I've got to go completely off the globe, or, it's what has God empowered you with your passions to share? Yeah. And, speaking as humbly as possible, I hope that through my passions that youth have been connected to Christ through me, and that God has used me to make a difference. And I truly believe that I can make more of a difference with my passion for youth ministry than I would overseas. Just as, I'm pretty sure Fung Lo, he knows way more about the Hmong people than I probably ever will. Yep. And you talk to him, that's his passion. Yep. And, putting him in the youth room I run probably wouldn't be as conducive long term, because his passion is with those people. Yeah.
Or in the youth parking lot that you run currently.
Yep. I cannot wait to get back in our youth room.
Yeah.
I miss that place.
I was just thinking of conversations I've had in the past, and sometimes I've used different mediums to broach the subject. One of the ones I like to use a lot is the, especially in this day and age, and I don't know, youth probably talk about this, like, what's your favorite superhero?
Oh yeah, that's very common in youth,
especially in your youth room.
Yeah. And I didn't even have to encourage that. That was the first question I got asked.
So the question I have is, don't go into detail, but what is some of the kids' answers to that question?
For superheroes?
Yeah.
I can tell you, they really don't get into superheroes as much. They get into movies. They like our youth room is a Marvel youth room. There's not a lot of DC love. For those of you, DC is Batman, Superman, Marvel is Iron Man, Captain America.
For you normies out there.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yes.
Yep.
I didn't want to get into details, but you need to know that.
Yeah.
What they
It's either Coke or Pepsi.
yeah, that's
DC
how
or
it
Marvel.
works.
I
Do
like
you know there was a
Spider-Man.
Pepsi Man?
What?
Oh yeah,
Like a
there was a Pepsi
legitimate-
Man back
Yeah.
in the 90s.
No, that's still wrong.
Oh, it was horrible.
Better than
Obviously.
Coke Man, probably.
Well,
Coke Man didn't
yeah, but-
exist.
I prefer
Because that was
Coca-Cola.
probably good. Because he's probably
Yeah.
sorry.
But
That's why I said I prefer Coca-Cola over Pepsi.
Okay. Anyways,
I can tell you
Thanks,
the
Paul.
the leading superheroes that tend to be talked about the most in the youth room: Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Like the big three in
big
Marvel.
Thor.
Like,
Okay. And you said Spider-Man.
I said Spider-Man.
And why Spider-Man? Because that's one you know.
Yep.
Bennett
I
likes
liked the
Spider-Man.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
does.
Bennett
Yeah.
loves Spider-Man.
I just always liked.
So, what about you? What do you think, Herbs?
I don't know.
All right,
really
Lacey,
superhero
what do you?
family.
I
we're
don't
not.
really
Yoda.
Yoda.
Yoda. No, what it's well, no, I like the Flash, but that's not
Yes,
that's-
that's a superhero.
It counts.
Okay.
DC.
It counts.
okay. I was like, wait a minute. I'm trying to think of all the shows that Hudson and I have watched together.
See,
Hudson
I'm
likes Captain America and Iron Man. So
Iron Man all the way.
I'd probably
over here.
stick with Spider-Man too if I had to pick one.
Well, and I'm not sure if I brought this up before, but when people ask me that question, I always say Clark Kent, and you're like, oh, Superman. I'm like, no, Clark Kent. And the reason is Superman can do anything. Superman is, involved. He can do whatever he wants,
Yeah.
but Clark can't. Clark can't do anything he wants. He has to humble it because basically, I think a hero is somebody who can do everything, but chooses not to. And that's where I broach. Jesus. Yeah, and that's and I know there is a lot of similarities. They've been doing that for years, but that is where I broach the subject of Jesus and how he can do everything, but he doesn't.
So then you talk about the
Limited in
non-reciprocity of the
humanity.
genus Myostaticum, right?
No,
Salt.
I have no
Water.
idea what you just said. Did you
Yes,
just mumble?
that is what Paul says.
Paul then jumps into the non-reciprocity of the genus Myostaticum.
Yeah. Can you please explain to us who are not?
Yes,
the-
yes,
I would like
Pastor.
a cherry
Please tell
on
us
top
what.
of mine, please.
Please tell Paul what Paul was saying.
Yes. So the genus Myostaticum there are three genera of Jesus, and talks about how
What's
his
a genera?
It's a
Personality?
categorization.
I
Genus.
haven't had enough caffeine for any of this.
So it's Latin.
I'm like thinking-
where we
You're kidding me. That's Latin? You're
where we
kidding.
categorize animals, right? They're genera. I don't know.
Gonorrhea?
genre?
What did you say?
Genre. Yeah, that's what we get. We get our word genre from it. But so it's a
Oh.
category.
Not gonorrhea.
No. The
Genre.
genus Myostaticum, that one focuses on with Jesus and his relationship between his humanity and his divinity. And the genus Myostaticum says that the majesty genre talks about how his divinity can affect his humanity. Like that's where Jesus can walk on water, walk through walls, those sorts of things. But the non-reciprocity of the genus Myostaticum means that his humanity can't affect his divinity.
Yeah.
And so you get a little bit of both of those with the Clark Kent.
Well, yeah, but that's the reason why I bring it up, and I do try to
Yeah.
loosely connect it because that is always the reason why Clark Kent is more important as a character than Superman is. Even though all the movies will say, "Oh, we need to see him beat up things."
I do like
Some of the best Superman movies were the ones that were about Clark,
yeah.
and so
Not Man of Steel.
not Man of Steel.
I like the old school ones.
But I'm just saying,
He turned back time by flying so
Those
fast
were
around the earth.
fantastic.
I
Yes.
still love
go.
those.
yeah. So I mean, those are the kind of things that I think are being lost because they just want to sit there and focus on the spectacle and focus on, look at this feat of strength that this Titan can do.
I could see
Well,
that.
and along those lines, going superheroes and who you connect with, I bumped in at the end of confirmation class in person.
We had fun.
And one of the students there reminded me of my very first chapel that I ever gave at Trinity about superheroes. And I chose not Clark Kent, but I chose Tony Stark, who is Iron Man. And the reason I'm very similar, if you ask me, point blank, I'll say Iron Man, but Tony Stark is my favorite. And I gave the example of, you look at all the other superheroes, they have powers. Superman has his powers. Wonder Woman, Captain America, all
Don't
these people.
forget Spider-Man.
No, not, of course.
Okay.
You say the best for last.
Oh, okay.
All of them have supernatural powers. Tony Stark has no actual superpowers. He has a lot of money and he's smart, but he has no actual superpowers. And in the group of the Avengers in the Marvel universe is the team up of all the superheroes. Of them, he's the only one that doesn't actually have a superpower. And at no point in the movies does he sit there and go,
Except for Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Black Widow.
I mean,
Sorry, I know.
we have Black Widow. The movie hasn't come out yet. We don't know her full backstory.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
But there's no comparison going on there.
Nerd 30.
And we could look
Nerd
at
30.
Yeah. you could look at that, and I gave the example to the kids. You could look at I can't. Some people can talk real well in public. I can't do that. I shouldn't do anything. You look at what Tony Stark does in the Avengers. He doesn't compare himself to those that have powers. He does what he can with what he has, which is his brains and his wealth. Yep. And what has God given each one of us? And I think one of the important things I love that we do on this podcast is we talk about the first steps, the baby steps. What is a baby step we can do? Odds on it's not going to Office Depot and talking as we buy something or make copies. But what has God given us this very day to make that first step?
You're talking about gifts.
Yeah. No. What has God put around you to start sharing that Great Commission?
What communities has he put you in?
And the interesting thing about Tony Stark is, yes, he's rich. He's a
He's sarcastic, which
it's not
connects him with
but
me.
he's intellectual and he's genius and all that. But that's not what makes him fascinating. What makes him fascinating is the fact that from his past, he was a womanizing drunk, and he picked himself up and became a hero. Right? Mm-hmm. That is really what he from his past mistakes and what he did, creating weapons and all this other stuff. He took those things and said, I'm done with this. And so it's really more of a redemption story for him. Mm-hmm. Now the difference is he did it himself.
Right.
So that's where the difference would be.
Right.
Yes.
The pull yourself up by the bootstraps sort of, I got to get my act together, rather than, Jesus coming to you while you were still a sinner.
Yes.
And picking you up and dusting you off and saying, you are mine. I have more in store for you. Let's do good.
Yeah. I think that's the issue. That's the disconnect with a lot of superheroes, even Batman. He's like, oh, look at this. I mean, again, coming from a point of wealth, going, oh, my parents died. I'm going to become the best thing ever. Everything ever. But those kind of stories, which is the reason why, I mean, even like Captain America and Spider-Man is a great example of somebody who had loss and could take that loss, and you could sit there and go, I had a hard life. I'm going to just be horrible to everyone, or I can be the opposite of that.
Well, and Spider-Man also is one where it's not about me choosing to make better of myself. Like, that was kind of, he was chosen.
Given great responsibility.
He was and he was like, it was through the spider bite, he was filled with these powers. We can liken that to baptism and being filled with the Spirit. And then now that he's been filled with this, now he has Now, how am I going to use it?
With great power comes great
Comes
responsibility.
great responsibility.
Thanks, Stanley.
But you look at all these heroes,
biblical.
Sounds like Jesus.
and the reason there's so many different in nerd kingdom here, you call it origin stories. There's a variety of origin stories, and I think that connects with us as Christians. Is none of us has the same background. Some of us are like Clark Kent, just born into this. Been a Christian your whole life. It's who you are. And whereas some people are the Tony Stark, had a very selfish lifestyle, and it comes and rears them in the face, and they have to face change or something's gonna happen to you. Some of us have great tragedy, like Bruce Wayne, Batman. Some of us never asked for it, like Spider-Man, and then some of us try to make ourselves better, and it goes horribly wrong. The Hulk, but you still can make something out of it.
Yeah. So for all of you though out there who have been not a part of Nerd 30 and you just have been staring, going, "What
I
are
think
they
Lacey
talking
was
about?"
yawning at one point.
I cannot help it. I am so tired today. And then you guys can't see Paul's studio, but I have like a view outside the window, and it's like fantastic nap weather.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to not yawn. So if you,
But
it's
so-
bad.
Yeah. So.
We'll talk Latin and superheroes
But
more.
but this is Latin. Let's go. Like let's get away from superheroes and let's talk more Latin.
Salt and pepper, black otter.
Yeah, let's go.
That's all I know.
Yeah, that's your perfect Latin. But
Salt and pepper.
but you all
black
have those fears. You all have those places where, I mean, this is the reason that it is the greatest, we call it the greatest story ever told. Now, some people don't like using that phrase because when we hear story, we think fiction. But the story of Jesus is the greatest story in terms of narrative, in terms of, it's the greatest story ever told. And so you look at all of what, you see it in movies, you see it in books, you see all of these ways that Jesus plays in. And so what's your passion? Where do you see Jesus? Is it gardening? And so every spring, right? It's interesting that Easter lilies always seem to pop up around Easter every year.
What?
Yeah, surprise, because we've had, winter is this cycle of death, but then it's the cycle of new life and rebirth. And so even the seasons shout the name of Jesus. And so you don't have to be a superhero fan to get excited about, to have that in to talk about Jesus. You can be a horticulturist if you would like to be, if that's who you are. And you can use that to talk about and to bring Jesus into your community. Speaking of which, plant sales going on. If you need some great plants, Janet's Jungle, go ahead and find that link.
Put down
Watch them
Hudson,
thrive all summer.
Yeah,
their student.
Hudson, 2nd grade. Alex.
janetsjungles.com, and then you can search for Trinity Fremont, and then it brings up our site, and then there's a little purple shopping cart in the middle. You can click on that, and it has all the plants listed. And
There
then
you
there
go.
are also these things called bonus buys. And there should be something called an African sun that is put on there. It kind of looks like a Gerber daisy.
I like
that
Gerber
has
daisies.
been hit with like sprinkles. It is gorgeous. It's got pinks and purples and yellows.
Daisy with
I know.
sprinkles.
Hashtag plant nerd right here.
So there you go. So
Wait a minute, I was
Lacey,
falling asleep there.
Yeah.
I know. See,
so
I was all
Lacey-
perked back up there for a minute.
Lacey's starting to geek out now about, but that's your in.
Yeah, but I'm
with people.
terrible at plants. But I love to
can still
do
appreciate
things
them.
for the
But
children.
yes, but that's one of your ins. So
Yep.
you don't have to be a Latin scholar. You don't have to be a Nerd 30 fan. You don't have to be a fan of all of the superheroes or
Yes, you do.
or you
Harry
can.
Potter has a fantastic. Now she will tell you that she did not write that, but it's in terms of Jesus. But because the story of Jesus is the greatest story, whenever anyone wants to write a story, a fiction story,
And the hero sacrifices
himself, gives himself into death so that others might live. boy, that sure sounds a lot like Jesus. And that is not a nonfiction, or that is not a fiction. I'm so bad at that. That is a nonfiction story. It's a true story. Jesus is not Harry Potter. Harry Potter's fiction.
Yes.
Jesus.
Fiction means
Nonfiction.
fake. Nonfiction, not fake.
There you go.
Good job, Casey.
So
You connect the F's on there. That's what I remember.
there you go. So so that's what, for you, as you're thinking through what we talked about, what Fung taught us, and brought us the Great Commission of, as you go on living your life, share your faith. Where are those places? And maybe that's where you need to do some pre-work. With Fung, it just comes naturally. Oh, you're an insurance salesman. Let me be an insurance salesman to you. But there's also, what are those passions that God has placed on you? Is it plants? Is it superheroes? Is it Harry Potter? Is it
Taxes.
Is it taxes? Is it insurance?
There's got to be an in somewhere.
Yeah, there's got to be an in.
There
And
always
so-
is. I
so-
mean, there were so many different backgrounds that the 12 disciples came from.
Matthew was a tax. No, but what's your in, and where, and again, not so that it's forced, but what are your passions?
Star Wars.
That
the Force.
that move you to Jesus, that help you transition in that conversation to Jesus. And so, eventually maybe it does become so comfortable that you're more focused on, you're an insurance, let me be an insurance salesman. You're a nerd, let me be a nerd.
You call people nerds.
Yes, we're just going
nerds.
all in. I'm a big nerd.
We're nerds.
Let's go.
I thought I could fight it. Nope, I
No.
now embrace it.
Yeah. And so that's what, if there's anything to maybe do homework, I know. But to do
say
some
homework?
Yeah. To do some prep so that you can have conversations with people about Jesus. It's, what are your passions, and how can you see your passion? How can that connect people to Jesus? And here's a great resource. It's called the Googles. You can probably Google, and someone's done that for you. Now make it your own. Make sure it's actually theologically accurate.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but
Why would you do that?
because
Can
of
I do
Jesus.
that on my own? I need you.
No,
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, you'd have to reach
Yeah.
out to somebody if you want to make sure that it's.
I'm happy to talk through
Theologically correct.
theology, but I want you to come up with talk through what is my in,
Gotcha.
and then see, if I say it this way, is that, and every analogy will fall short.
Because it's not Jesus.
It's not Jesus. It points us to Jesus. So every analogy is gonna run its course at some point. Even the parables that Jesus taught with, if you try and play them completely out, there are places where it's like, no, Jesus was going for one main point with one main character. Guess what? Jesus is the main character, not you. But one point, and when you start, well, what is this little detail? Sometimes we then go astray. So, what's your in? Where can you take your passions? Because God has given you those passions. Where in your passions can you help point people to Jesus?
Sometimes it's just pointing it out. Part of my training for starting Call Your
Hashtag
Mom
call your mom.
is the training, and this is an avenue to share Jesus with people. So how do we do that in everyday conversation as often as we can? And part of it, which I've appreciated, is like if somebody's coming and telling me, my father died, I'm having a really hard time with this. He said, just share a truth about Jesus and tell them that you're praying for them, because that truth, Jesus comes close to the brokenhearted. That's what he says in the Bible. I'm definitely praying for you because this is a hard time. And just that's not preaching, but it is sharing God's word with them. So it doesn't have to be this big analogy,
No.
this big research project. How am I going to do this? It's just what do you know about Jesus, and how do you
It has to be a big
tell
research.
people?
With the trifold.
Yes,
I think.
probably.
Will you all bring your trifolds?
Make sure you do your thesis
Lacey's will be the best.
I have all
with
of
flowers.
it. Oh, shush. I have all of the things.
Mine
And-
will be digital.
Hey,
A
And
digital trifold.
I will figure
I
out
wish
a
I
way.
could do the digital stuff. And it's not that I can't, it's that I've never tried.
I'll just do it for you for
You're
free.
good at the physical.
I'm good.
Project.
Yeah.
I would say, though, on top of sharing your faith, particularly if this is something new, no matter what level, if you've never done it or if you've done it on some level and want to increase what you're doing, I encourage people to embrace the awkwardness of it. And I say that because I'm a trained DCE, but right now I'm doing that part-time. So my full-time job is Medicare insurance. And my uncle is actually the one who helped me get on board with it. And part of what I do, particularly during the fall, is going to grocery stores or clinics and just setting up a table where you can talk about insurance. And one of the first things he told me, he goes, you will not be perfect immediately. In fact, it will feel like a foreign language coming out of your mouth, and it's going to be awkward. But the only way you're going to get that to feel normal is to practice. And if you use the excuse to never do it, then you'll never actually connect with anyone. Part of it is going through those awkward first couple times, because that's how it is for any new thing you do. So if, as you're trying this out, don't say, it's awkward, I'm not a natural, I shouldn't do it. Embrace the awkward. That's part of the learning experience. And I've learned about a vast majority of the people on this planet, we're all a little awkward. We understand each other's a little awkward. They're not going to write you off. We all understand where each other's coming from.
Yep.
So embrace that awkward.
Yeah.
There you go.
The
All
end.
right.
That's
There
why.
you go.
The end.
As you go on,
Embrace the awkward.
embrace
The
the
awkward.
awkward.
Just like that awkward silence.
As you go on, which you won't hear that awkward silence in the audio version because we will truncate silence.
That's a fun word.
Yes,
Truncate.
truncate. As you go on living your life, share your faith. Right? That's what I hope you get out of this, and that's what we're trying to talk through. We're trying to. We heard the word. We spent some time reflecting on the word to better understand the word, and now it's for us. It's our opportunity to go out and live the word and embrace the awkward, and have some conversations, and do some make our trifold of
Digitally.
digitally for some, with sprinkles and die cuts
Glitter.
for somebody else. Or sorry, glitter. Yeah, don't put sprinkles. Well, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Is it edible?
Maybe it's ice cream. Maybe your passion is ice cream, and you can talk
ice
about.
cream.
There are some pretty good ice creams.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are.
maybe you can make resurrection rolls with crescent rolls and a marshmallow and
That's our Easter.
butter and spices, and we'll talk about that
maybe
next
you
week.
could just do ham and scalloped potatoes, isn't it? No normal
Yeah.
Lutheran.
We've made it the entire podcast, and no one has brought up food.
Come on, you knew that wasn't going to
I
last.
was like, oh my gosh, we've almost made it.
Nope.
You thought
right.
it happened.
Sorry, I accidentally said sprinkles, and Jesus planted that in my head to
That's
say
true.
you need
I
to
did
talk
say
about food.
sprinkles. It looks like I brought it up then.
Oh, you did. Yes.
I said
You
sprinkles.
know how many conversations happen over food? I'm just
A
saying.
lot. We
Oh.
have a lot of conversations over food.
Jesus
No, I'm
had
talking
them too.
about.
Yeah,
I'm
with
talking about.
Jesus, too.
I'm talking about Jesus conversation
Oh,
while,
that's
while
true.
eating
The
food.
only
Yep,
miracle,
while reclining at table.
the only miracle besides the resurrection that's in all four gospels is the feeding of the 5,000.
Yep. Food.
Food.
All right.
There's a good book, Food and Wine, that kind of talks about
Food and
that.
wine.
Once you can eat together again, do it and talk about Jesus.
There you go.
Be
Talk about
safe.
Food and
Yep.
wine.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like
Bread
wine.
and wine. Bread and wine. That's what it's called.
Bread
Bread
wine.
and wine.
Okay.
It's like
I like food.
communion.
Carbs.
Mm.
Carbs.
And more carbs.
And more carbs.
There you go.
Yeah.
All
It's a little
right.
bit different than whiskey and wine. Well, maybe.
Maybe.
Whiskey and bread just
Jesus.
doesn't sound the same.
And cigars.
It's just Jesus.
I've had many conversations over whiskey and cigars.
Yeah.
Well, that's better than whiskey and bread. That
Sounds horrible.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Do
There
we
you
have,
go.
before we go, do we have any announcements or anything? We have plant sale.
Plant sale.
Plant sale.
Yeah.
We ask that a couple of things for y'all to keep in prayer. We've had a principal and two teachers that we extended a call to this past weekend. One of the teachers visited this past weekend, and then the principal and the other teacher are visiting this coming weekend. So for Greg and Christy and Letha and their families. Also, Katie Comfort Dog Team. It looks like it's very possible that they will be heading to Boulder, Colorado, to minister to those who are hurting and who need comfort. And so, again, for that team, right? Talk about awkward. They started when they started this Comfort Dog Team, they all came in, and just praying with someone was awkward, and now these comfort dog handlers, this team that's just become second nature. I mean, to just, if someone's in need, if someone's hurting, yes, there's Katie the comfort dog there, but that's their in. That's their ability to have a conversation of someone who brings comfort and peace to the brokenhearted. And so they'll be prayers for safe travel, but most importantly, prayers that the peace that passes all understanding, who is Jesus, can comfort hearts and minds, and that they can use, or that God would use the handlers, and God would use Katie to bring peace into a broken situation.
Is
All
the
right.
first time they've been deployed?
I believe, I mean, there have been a couple
Since COVID.
There may have been a couple local, like to funerals and things like that but I believe this is the first large deployment since
It's normal
COVID.
in a normal year, but in the past year they haven't been
Yeah. So
going many places.
okay.
And a week from Friday, not this Friday.
Oh yeah.
So Good Friday morning, we have, the Fremont
You're part of
area.
the we, yeah.
Yeah, with Fremont area leadership prayer breakfast is happening, but it's going to be virtual. And so you can look that up on Facebook. And we have our special guest is Kurt Cameron. And there's also a very special, music from Trinity Worship Band. So
Yeah.
And it sounds awesome.
yeah, so
we got a sneak peek
Listen.
listen.
What's the peak? Never mind. We're not gonna go down that rabbit trail.
And so, that's next, not this Friday, but Good Friday morning at 7:00 in the morning. And it's on Facebook and on the Fremont Prayer Breakfast.
Yep.
And on the Chambers Facebook. So find those two. And
There you go.
And we have that'd be fun. I've been putting that together. That's been, and it really is a collaboration of all different types of congregations and peoples in the Fremont area, which is becoming nice. So
yeah. And then, as always, like and share if this was helpful for you. But also, one of the conversations that we had at church council that Paul didn't come to
because I was doing the Fremont.
Was reviews are also helpful, both for the podcast to help other people find this, but also church, school. When you can do a Google review, that helps others find Trinity and hear the truth and hear the good news of Jesus.
Yeah. And I guess also, I'm not sure if we can, in the future, when school stops, we're actually going to move this podcast to Tuesday evenings.
Yep.
So we can
listeners, that won't change anything for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the podcast will still be there and the live show will still be there. It's just that it will be probably 7 or probably 7 o'clock. I don't know. We haven't decided what time.
Evening time.
Evening time, but it will be on Tuesday nights.
Yep. We're going to eat dinner together. We're going to commune. We're going to have some bread and
wine,
maybe some wine.
Instead of annoying you with talking about food, we'll get it out of the way and eat it.
No,
That way you don't hear about it.
We'll just have stuff in our teeth.
There you go.
But our hope is that we are able to connect with a lot more people and more interaction. I think it's fantastic. People come here on 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays, which is amazing that they actually able to do that. But hopefully during the night, maybe that could be something you sit down with your family and listen to us gab.
There you go.
Join in.
Your baby
Start some conversations in your house.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Well,
Gracious God, thank you so much for the gifts you give each of us. We thank you for the ministry that Fung Lo participates in, that you have blessed him with. Lord, help us connect with where our passions and our callings are, whether that's across the world or right in our communities. Help us recognize what those are in our lives. And Lord, in those moments when Satan tempts us to back away because it's unusual and it's awkward, help us to keep what you told us, the Great Commission, at the front of our minds, and for us to embrace those awkward moments to make sure that the world knows who you are. Give us strength through the week, and please give guidance to those who are considering calls to Trinity, and grant safe travels for the KU Comfort Dog team, and particularly peace and comfort for those that they are about to interact with. All these things we ask in your amazing and powerful name. Amen.
Amen.
See you later. Thanks for joining us this week. We pray that the Holy Spirit has used this time to focus you in on the one thing that you can practice this week as you live out your faith in your family and in your community. If you found this helpful, feel free to share it with a friend. If you would like to support the work that God is doing through Trinity Fremont, you can text a donation to 1-844-353-5782, or you can give online at www.trinityfremont.com/donate.